Carter, looking at the SEC, since you've got your eye on the entire conference, I got to think that LSU fans, including yourself, are looking to your nearest opponent to the West and thinking, wow, they just brought in the number one class in the country. Even
Right.
after it was named the number one class on National Signing Day, they brought in like 3 top 5 guys at their positions. It's just crazy. They did go 8-4, disappointing season this past year, but they seem to be loaded and ready. Maybe not 22 might not be their peak year, but maybe 23. But you already got Alabama to deal with, and then you got Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. It's just the best division in college football. There's no question. But specifically Texas A&M, what do you think about what's going on there?
Yeah, so as far as the LSU perspective, A&M has never played well versus LSU. It's just a truth. Even in 2020, that it wasn't a great offensive performance at all. So as far as that matchup is concerned, Jimbo's just never really coached that well against LSU outside of, once again, a bad offensive performance in 2020 and the miracle 2018 overtime game. So as far as Texas A&M is concerned, it's the same thing for me, for Jimbo Fisher. He's not really that good of a play caller, and he still calls plays. And Mark, I did a deep dive on Jimbo when the coaching decision was actually being made, because, of course, Jimbo, his relationship with Scott Woodward, and this is what was really fascinating to me, was when I looked at his offensive discrepancies from when he's coaching at Kyle Field compared to when he's not coaching at Kyle Field, it is ridiculous how inept the Texas A&M offense looks on the road. And I know that every Texas A&M fan is nodding in agreement. So until that gets fixed and until he actually gets better quarterback play, A&M's not going to be better than a 9-3, 10-2 type of team. And that, to me, is that's outside of recruiting. That's just simple stuff that needs to get fixed. However, you can't argue what they've done in recruiting. It's been nothing short of incredible. But this is a question I want to ask you, Mark. Okay, I'm going to flip the script, and I'm going to look at you right now. Okay, what's very interesting is all these 5-star recruits are coming back, right? Or coming into the program, and they're all 5-stars, and they know they could play wherever they want year one, but they're not all going to be able to play year one at Texas A&M. So with the transfer portal rules being the way that they are now, I could see a lot of these 5-stars that get into Texas A&M, they don't play right away. I could easily see them pack their bags quickly as well, right?
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think that we see that. I think that especially a 5-star, most of them, of course, we're generalizing people, and everybody's got their own mindset and,
Right.
and their own expectation. And some are okay with, okay, I'm going to sit for a year. I get it, even though I can see where I must step quicker than the dude next to me and all that.
Right.
I'll be patient, but others will bolt after a year and say, I'm out of here. If I don't see the right things and I'm not hearing the right things, maybe into spring practice, I'm going to get out of here. We're going to see our next big swing into the transfer portal, obviously, after spring practice. But yeah, we could be a year away from a big defection class there at Texas A&M. I would not be surprised at that.
Yeah, and this is something else that's really interesting. Is like I view some of the guys in their class as underrated compared to the 5-stars. So take I believe his name is Chris Marshall. I really like him a lot. I think he's going to be big. I think A&M got some real receivers. Obviously, Evan Stewart is phenomenal. And that's where they've really been lacking, right? The outside playmakers. And they barely missed out on Brian Thomas Jr., who had a really good true freshman season for LSU. So, I hope I got that right. Stewart and Marshall. I think I'm right about that.
I think you're there.
They really have some impressive players. Now, this is where it's going to get even more interesting between A&M and LSU. There's 2 5-star level players that they're both after, which is, of course, Harold Perkins and Jacoby Matthews. We'll see where both of them sign in February. Obviously, Harold Perkins has publicly committed to Texas A&M. LSU is not giving up, and Perkins looks to be the next Will Anderson type of player. And you see what Will Anderson has done for Alabama. I think he's that good. I really do. He's my number one player in 2022, period. I think he's better than Travis Hunter, Walter Nolan, Cade Klubnik, whoever you want to mention. I think he's really that big of a prospect. So if LSU misses out on him and he goes to Texas A&M, that's huge, and that's where it's looking at right now.
Yeah, the teams that acquire the most talent are going to most likely lose the most talent. We see that in quarterback rooms that are filled with 4 and 5 stars. But still, you want to acquire the most talent, because once you lose it, you're still going to be in the best position. So if you follow me here, on a scale of 1 to 100, if Texas A&M is bringing in a 98 and they lose some of those guys and it levels off to an 85, that's better than bringing in an 85 that you lose a few dudes and it's a 75. So,
right.
It's just the roster management for these coaches is much more difficult than it was. Just look at the quarterback position. I think, the way a coach would approach it 2 years ago was, hey, our starting quarterback's going into a senior season. We're comfortable with him. He's good. Then we got our development guy. He's shown us good things. He's a sophomore. He's going to be the next guy in line. They had this progression, and they'd be able to chart it out for a few years. And now it's just kind of like, let's just acquire the best talent, and whoever leaves, and we're going to have to coach the other guys and try to retain as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what's going to be interesting as well. There's still some really good football players out there, right? Like take Jermaine Burton, obviously, one of the biggest transfer portal entries thus far. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was a difference maker for Georgia in the championship game. What does he decide to do? Does he join Cortez Hankton with LSU, or does he go to Alabama, where some people expect him to go? So, with the transfer portal being the way that it is now, it's just amazing how much that one player can really change things for your team, right? I just don't know if I've ever seen, Mark, a more valuable receiver at Alabama than Jameson Williams. Now, there have been better. Obviously, Devonta Smith was better. Amari Cooper was better, but it was ridiculous how big of a drop off Jameson Williams, and then you add on to the John Mechie injury as well. You see how important just having those extra playmakers really are to your roster. And Jermaine Burton is a real field stretcher, great route runner, and just that one player, Mark, that one player can just change so much for your roster now. And it makes it kind of exciting, yet at the same time, kind of terrifying because you just don't know. You just don't know. Like next year as LSU fans, we're going to be looking to be like, wait, who is that guy? Who's that guy? And who are these coaches? It's going to look so new. And, I don't know about you, Mark. I'm open to change. I'm open to things like this. Name, image, and likeness doesn't bother me so much. But there's obviously, it creates so much more roster volatility, and we'll see how that actually affects all these elite programs moving forward.